Save Me a Seat, chapters 21 and 22. Chapter 21, Ravi. Coach Victorine comes rushing over to help me. "Get the first aid kit," he yells. Everyone crowds around. I check myself, but nothing is broken. There's no blood, just a painful spot on my shoulder where the ball struck me. A terrible thought suddenly occurs to me. My glasses! But when I pull into my pocket and pull them out, I'm relieved to see they are not broken. "What happened out there, Sam Reen?" asks Coach Victorine. "You forget what game we're playing?" "Sorry, Coach," Dylan says. "The ball must have been wet or something. It just got away from me. I didn't mean to hit him. Honest." It's nothing," I say, standing up and brushing myself off. "Please, can I bat again?" But Coach Victorine won't allow it. "How about you take our young friend here down to the nurse's office so we can look over him," he tells Dylan. We don't want to take any chances. As Dylan and I walk to the nurse's office, it seems I do most of the talking. I have so much I want to say. "Can you believe Mrs. Beam thinks I need special help?" I laugh. "Ridiculous. You saw my Vedic math. Does she think I'm like Ramaswamy?" "Who?" asks Dylan. "He was a boy at my school in India who couldn't read. Does she think I'm like him? Or Bigfoot? All he did when we were in the resource room yesterday was talk about candy and look at sports magazines. Ha! Make sure you tell the nurse it was an accident," says Dylan. "I didn't hit you on purpose." "No worries, man," I tell him. "Do you know Kapil Dev, the famous Indian cricketer? He came to Vidya Mandir as the chief guest at our sports day last year. My best friend, Pramad, and I had our pictures taken with him. When you come to my house, I'll show you. You can see all my trophies too, and Amma will make dosas for us. Our garden is quite big. Maybe I can teach you how to play cricket, and you can teach me how to hit a home run." Dylan smiles at me and winks. "I can hardly wait," he says. When we arrive at the nurse's office, Dylan reminds me once more to explain that he didn't hit me with a ball on purpose. Then he leaves and goes back to class. The nurse gives me an ice pack for my shoulder and tells me to lie down on a cot and rest. I close my eyes for a while, and when I open them again, there's a girl in a green uniform standing in the doorway, holding my backpack and jacket. She's from my class, but I don't remember her name. "Mrs. Beam told me to bring Ravi's stuff in case he has to go home early," she tells the nurse. "I'm fine," I say, sitting up. "I don't need to go home." The bell rings, and fifth graders start coming down the corridor towards the lunchroom. The girl in the green uniform puts my things on a chair and leaves. "Please," I beg the nurse, "can I go to lunch now?" Nothing is going to prevent me from eating my lunch with Dylan Samreen. "If you're sure you feel up to it," says the nurse, "let me get you a fresh ice pack to take with you. It will help you keep the swelling down." The nurse takes so long preparing the ice pack that by the time I get to the lunchroom, Dylan has already bought his lunch and is sitting at the table in the corner by the window shooting straw papers with his friends. I look at the menu board on the wall. Today they are serving something called chili. I see someone eating a bowl of soup filled with red beans and tomatoes. In India, we call this kind of soup rajma. It's more of a North Indian dish, but Amma makes it sometimes anyway, adding plenty of cumin seeds and black pepper to make it spicy. Rajma is served with rice, but American chili is served with some kind of yellow bread that looks like cake. I have my tiffin box with me, but I grab one of the plastic trays anyway and tuck it under my arm. I have a plan I'm certain will help me fit in. Bigfoot is sitting at the same table where I sat on the first day. I walk past him and straight to Dylan's table. I recognize some of the other faces. Robert Princenthal and Keith Campbell, Tim/Jim, Tom Dinkins, and the red-headed boy called Jax. "Excuse me, can you make some room for me, please?" I ask Tom Dinkins, who is sitting next to Dylan. Tom Dinkins looks at Dylan. "You heard the man. Move over, Dink," says Dylan. Then he laughs and snaps his head back to shake the hair out of his eyes, Bollywood style. I wonder if Amma would ever let me grow my hair that long. Tom Dinkins moves over, and I sit down on the bench next to Dylan. I place the plastic tray in front of me, unbuckle the lid, and open the top compartment of my tiffin box, and transfer the creamy white raita into one of the small square sections of my tray. I smile. Finally, I am where I belong. Chapter 22. Joe. It was an accident, Dylan tells Mrs. Bean when he comes back from dropping Ravi off at the nurse's office. Yeah, right. Selena Gervais, who's wearing her dorky Girl Scout uniform as usual, volunteers to pack up Ravi's stuff for him and take it down to the nurse's office. She accidentally drops Ravi's pencil case as she's trying to put it in his backpack, and the last of his 3 mechanical pencils goes rolling under the desk. Dylan sees it, and before Selena can bend down and pick it up, the pencil disappears down the front of his pants. She hunts around for it, a little, but all she comes up with is a balled-up piece of paper. Crud. It's that stupid cartoon that Dylan drew. Why hadn't I thrown it in the wastebasket instead of dropping it on the floor? Before I can do anything about it, Selena tosses the crumpled-up cartoon into Ravi's backpack and zips it closed. 2 seconds later, she's out the door and on her way down to the nurse's office. At 11:30, the lunch bell rings. Wednesday is chili day. Einstein's chili isn't nearly as good as my mother's, but the cornbread is decent, especially if you put a lot of butter on it. Mom is standing there near the door in her red and white striped apron when I get to the cafeteria. But when she sees me, she looks the other way. I have to give her points for that. Ravi is nowhere in sight. He might still be in the nurse's office, or maybe he went home. I get my lunch and head for the empty table near the trash cans, but Dylan steps in front of me. It's a good thing Coach decided to call the game, he says. If we'd lost, you would have paid for it big time. I know, I say. You told me. He grabs a piece of cornbread off my tray and stuffs it into his mouth. His eyes are pinned on me like 2 thumbtacks on a bulletin board. What was it Mr. Barnes had said? The world is full of Dylan Samreens. I close my eyes and take a deep breath, trying to remember the rest. Wake up, putty-tat, Dylan shouts in my ear. I jump and Dylan laughs, shaking the hair out of his eyes. I wonder how much time he spends in front of the mirror every day. In 4th grade, our desks had been right next to the windows, and I had seen him checking out his reflection in the glass all the time. Once, Mr. Barnes and I caught him doing it at the same time, and we both had to try hard not to laugh. Thinking about that jump-starts my memory, and the rest of Mr. Barnes' advice comes flying back into my head. You have to find a way to keep him from getting to you, I whispered. What was that, Pud? Asks Dylan, grabbing another piece of cornbread off my tray. I look at Dylan and try to imagine that, instead of a crocodile, he's a harmless little rodent like a mouse or a chipmunk. I never noticed it before, but his ears are actually kind of small and round and set high on the sides of his head. And with his cheeks stuffed full of cornbread, he does look like a chipmunk. All of a sudden, instead of feeling nervous, I start to laugh. Dylan's eyes aren't sparkling anymore. They're cold and dark like 2 lumps of clay. You want to tell me what's so funny, Pud? He says. As he hitches up his saggy pants, I notice his boxers for the first time. Of all the things they could be decorated with today, polka dots, or clover leaves, or taxicabs, or buffaloes, he's wearing boxers covered with peanuts. Peanuts! My grandma has a family of chipmunks who live under her porch, and she always puts a bowl of peanuts out for them. Dylan Samreen, the crocodile-turned-chipmunk, standing there in his peanut boxers with his cheeks full of cornbread, pushes me right over the edge, and I totally lose it. I haven't laughed this hard in a long time, and every time I think I'm done, I look at his little round ears and his peanut boxers, my stomach bunches up and it starts all over again. I'm laughing so hard I'm crying now. Dylan's an expert at dishing it out, but he hasn't spent much time on the receiving end. He is clearly not enjoying this. Kids are crowding around, laughing and shouting, and I don't even care that I don't have my earplugs in. This might be one of the all-time greatest moments of my life. I'm out of here, says Dylan. Mr. Barnes was right. I found a way to keep Dylan from getting to me, and it actually worked. For 1 perfect second, I feel like I'm standing on top of the world, and then I hear the whistle blow. Break it up, my mom says, pushing her way through the crowd of kids. What's going on here? Joey, are you okay? When Dylan hears her voice, he turns around. His eyes are sparkling again. Poor Joey, he says. Here comes Mommy to save her little baby, or maybe she needs to change his poopy diaper. Dylan looks like his old self again. He grins at me, shakes the hair out of his eyes, and walks away. So much for being on top of the world. I should have known it wouldn't last. Once a zebra, always a zebra. I look at my mom and shake my head. She just doesn't get it. Don't be mad at me, Joey. I thought you were in trouble, she says. I'm your mother. What am I supposed to do? Just stand there and watch? No, I say. You're not supposed to be here at all. I've lost my appetite. I can't even remember the last time that happened. My mom has to go break up a food fight on the other side of the cafeteria, so I put in my earplugs, carry my tray over to the table by the trash cans, and sit down by myself. A minute later, Ravi shows up carrying his jacket and his backpack. I guess he didn't go home after all. I don't expect him to want to sit with me, but I can't believe my eyes when he walks over to Dylan's table and sits down right beside him. Maybe that ball hit him harder than I thought, because I'm pretty sure he's lost his mind. And tomorrow we will continue with chapter 23.